This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're doing a smackdown between two top Ultrabooks. Right here we have the Asus Zenbook Prime UX31A Touch. So this is a touchscreen edition, basically, of the UX31 that you know and love. And here we have a new model from Samsung. This is the Samsung Series 7 Ultra, their Ultrabook. Also HD display, full HD, about the same size, about the same weight. Both have a touchscreen, both have backlit keyboards, same internals pretty much. So how do you choose? We're going to find out now. So here we have two really lovely new Ultrabooks. Both of these are available at Best Buy in the United States, by the way, and the Asus so far has been exclusive to Best Buy for a few months that it's been out, and the Samsung, well, right now it probably is too. Both 13.3 inches, both have a lovely metal casing, obviously a different color here. We've got kind of a natural aluminum finish on the Samsung, and we have this nice swirl aluminum black finish on the UX31A Touch that sets it apart from the regular UX31A in this country. Those of you who are overseas, of course, you won't get the full black treatment necessarily. You get the standard Zenbook Prime silver tones. The Asus sells for $10.99 at Best Buy forever. They're having a $100 off sale on Windows 8 laptops, so technically it would be $100 more, but let's face it, realism is that for months now it has been priced at that. And the Samsung, brand new, at $9.99, so it's $100 less. That's pretty surprising. Usually Asus is very aggressive with pricing, and they tend to be the cheaper ones. But in this case, well, Samsung got them on that one. So you can see similar form factor. The Samsung is a little thicker at the front. The Zenbook has that distinctive taper, so it gets really low right there. And the Samsung is about the same thickness. In fact, it's slightly, ever so slightly thicker at the front than it is at the back. That's different. They're clad all in metal. Here you can see our Samsung shiny metal bottom right here. Asus, black metal also. Both of these guys have full 1080p IPS displays. They're actually, both displays are made by the same manufacturer. Slightly different model number between these two, but very similar characteristics in terms of having very wide color gamuts. We'll discuss display in detail soon. If we take a look around at the ports, the Samsung is going to be the winner here. It weighs about 2 ounces more, which isn't much, but you sure get a lot of ports for your money. First, our Zenbook Prime, a little hard to see because it's black here, but here we have our SD card slot full size, our audio jack, a USB 3.0 port. Samsung on this side, we have Gigabit Ethernet, Awesomanius. Now, to be fully clear, the Asus Zenbook Prime comes with a little USB Ethernet adapter, 10100 Ethernet, so you're not going to get gigabit there, and that does use up one of your USB ports, but they do give you that adapter in the box. They also give you a mini VGA adapter. We have a full-size HDMI port right here on the Samsung, a USB 3.0 port. We have our combo audio jack, and we have a mini VGA port. Now, Samsung doesn't include the mini VGA adapter in the box. You have to buy that separately, unlike Asus. Go on to this side. Full-size SD card slot under this door right here. And two USB 2.0 ports right here, and there's your Kensington lock slots. And as Ultrabooks go, lots of ports right there. If we flip back to our Asus and look at the other side, we see our second USB 3.0 port. So there's two USB ports total. Both of them are 3.0 versus 3 USB ports on the Samsung. One is USB 3.0, the others are 2.0. And here we have our micro HDMI and our mini VGA with the adapter included in the box. So you're going to need the adapter for your HDMI out, which is probably the more common thing for a lot of folks these days to want to use, versus not needing that on the Samsung. That said, that adapter is very cheap and easy to find in pretty much any consumer electronics store these days. Now, one important difference between these two guys, both of these you can remove the bottom panel. It's a metal panel. This one here, teeny Torx screws to get it off, so a little bit more obscure there, but you can do it. But if you open it up, you're going to find you probably shouldn't have even bothered, to be honest. The memory is soldered on board. This has 4 gigs of DDR3, 1600 megahertz RAM in dual channel configuration. Can't do anything with that. And it has an mSATA drive. Aha! mSATA drives, if you're geeky with notebooks, you know that that's the internal SSD standard for Ultrabooks these days, but it's not your normal shape and size mSATA drive. It's a gumstick shaped one, sort of like what's used in the MacBook Airs. So you're not going to have an easy time finding a replacement for that. So there you go. 128 gig SSD in here right now. There is no 256 in the United States. Overseas, yes, you do have that option. wireless card. Both of them have the same socketed wireless card, and it's the Intel 6235N adapter with WiDi dual band. Good stuff there. Samsung, a rare treat for an Ultrabook right here. We have standard Phillips head screws. That's not the rare thing, but it is nice. You can take off this bottom panel. If you watch our video review of this notebook, you'll see you actually have 2 RAM slots in here, 2 standard SODIMM slots, again DDR3 1600 megahertz, and you have a standard mSATA drive. It comes with a Samsung one, no surprise there, and the usual socketed Intel wireless card. So you actually can upgrade the SSD in the future on this if you want, and you can upgrade your RAM. It ships with a 4 gig DIMM installed, so both channels are not filled. And something interesting in terms of desktop graphics performance using the Intel HD 4000 is that if you do pair up for dual channel, you should get some great speed improvements. And we're going to swap some RAM in here to find out about that. So be sure to read our full review when it's available to see how it does. No surprise when we open them up, you can see obviously the big color difference right here, black on the inside. That's continued throughout on the Zenbook, and we have the same silver on the Samsung. One big difference though is about your typing experience here. They both have really actually very nice keyboards, but you can see the Zenbook has high contrast keys. It also has backlight that likes to stay on all the time. It's on right now in a bright room, but black keys, white letter masking, no matter what the lighting is, that's very visible, even if the backlighting isn't on. And then we have a little silver background there to show you where the keyboard is and where it ends, basically. All makes for typing in dim settings easy. Samsung, aesthetically speaking, it's pretty. Sure, you've got light silver with dark silver key masking, basically. In dim lighting, when the backlighting isn't really going to be kicking on, it's kind of hard to actually read the masking on the keys. Now, even if you're a wizard of a touch typist, you probably don't remember where all the little FN multimedia control keys are. It would be helpful if they were a little easier to see. Once you're in a truly dark environment and the backlight kicks on, then it becomes easier. Both of these have fairly shallow keyboards. Both have fairly standard layouts as well. Surprisingly, this doesn't feel quite as good and quite as damped as the Asus Zenbook Prime UX31A Touch, but I find I type much better on this. This always works this way for me with the Samsung Series 7 machines. Keyboard doesn't feel like you're a wizard on it, but you type really well. A large trackpad here made by Elan. Nice definitive border here, you can feel it so you don't wander off. Works pretty well, supports multi-touch gestures. Now if we look at the Zenbook, visually of course it's pretty hard to see where the trackpad begins and ends. It has a different texture though. There's a little bit of a line you're not really going to feel so much when you wander off, but overall I actually like this trackpad a little bit better. The texture is a little bit rougher. It just seems to be tracking a little bit smoother than the Samsung. Now the Samsung is a new product. It just came out this week, so probably we'll see some more trackpad drivers. It already got one, and they may end up being on par, but right now I slightly prefer the Asus. One thing I dislike greatly about this keyboard is where the delete key usually is in the upper right hand corner. That's the power button. How awesome is it when you're typing, you go to hit the delete key and you hit the power button instead? Not so great. Aesthetically speaking, I would say the Zenbook Prime is the prettier machine. It has that taper, complex curves on the back, the swirled aluminum design, but that is a matter of taste. They're both very attractive and understated notebooks. One thing I like about the Samsung is this kind of neat sculpted curve that it has right here. So it drops down for the keyboard, and then we've got a little curve up. So it's not a simple design either, but it's a little bit more understated. This is a matter of taste. You can decide for yourself which you like better. I will tell you one thing though, I'm a little bit of a tidy freak, and you might be too with your electronics devices. And this guy you can touch till the cows come home, and it really doesn't show fingerprints much. That lovely black Zenbook Prime, my God, it picks up fingerprints like you wouldn't believe, and it goes from being one of the prettiest things you've ever seen to being ultra gooey, icky looking. So be prepared to clean it if you get the Zenbook Prime. When it comes to internals, you're looking at pretty similar stuff other than the upgradability factor, which can change things certainly if you go ahead and upgrade your own RAM on your Samsung Series 7 Ultra. But you've got a Core i5 Ivy Bridge 3rd generation CPU in each of these. The Zenbook goes with the 3317U 1.7 gigahertz. It's been around the block now for several months. While the Samsung has 1.8 gigahertz of 3337U, slightly updated, slightly faster. It's 100 megahertz faster. Both of them have 128 gig SSDs. Samsung makes the one in their product, and this one here has the SanDisk SanDisk drive. And actually, according to the Windows Experience Index, the SanDisk benchmarks a little bit more quickly. Go figure. Roughly on par. The Samsung should be a little bit faster, but in benchmarks, it's actually a little bit slower. On PC Mark 7, We scored 4670 on the Zenbook Prime versus 4469 on the Samsung. Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Why the difference there? I would say because the Zenbook Prime has dual channel memory configuration. It's soldered on, you can't change that, but it's configured dual channel. That makes for faster RAM access, which in turn boosts up your Intel HD 4000 graphics performance. Samsung ships with one DIMM in the slot, so you'd have to pair them up to actually see that performance. And again, we'll cover that in our full written review of the Samsung to see how much more performance we can eke out of it. But roughly speaking, you're looking at two machines who are on par. Slightly updated CPU in the Samsung, but nothing to get really excited about. Now, following through on benchmark performance in our Windows Experience Index here, you can see some pretty similar figures. We have a 6.9 for both CPUs. The Zenbook UX31A Touch scores lower for memory, 5.9. 5.9 is a pretty typical figure for a lot of notebooks. When you see something faster, that's pretty neat. We have a 7.2 actually here on the Samsung for memory. Nifty. For graphics, desktop graphics, we have a 5.5, which is typical for, again, memory and dual channel configuration. That's your RAM memory we're talking about, because the Intel HD 4000 integrated graphics uses your actual RAM as its video RAM. Here we're at 4.6, so a significant difference there. Now, experientially, does it feel much different? No, not so much. But again, I'm going to upgrade that RAM to matching DIMMs and see what happens. For our gaming graphics, gets closer. 6.4 for 3D gaming graphics on the Zenbook and 6.2 on the Samsung. And primary hard disk, 8.1 on the Asus Zenbook Prime and 7.9 on the Samsung. When it comes to displays, both of these are 1080p, that is 1920 by 1080. Touchscreens with capacitive multi-touch going on here. Both are glossy displays. Both do offer you plenty of glare. They're both also quite bright, 350 nits for both of these. I would say the Zenbook Prime gets a little bit brighter. I haven't hit it up with the color meter yet to say for sure, or the light meter, but at maximum brightness, a little bit brighter. Both of these use CMN panels. That's an IPS display, very similar. We have the 1343 on the Samsung, which is the same one that's using the Asus Zenbook Prime UX32VD, and we have the CMN 1348 on the Asus. So almost identical. These are both IPS displays. One fascinating thing is you can probably even see it here. If it's not cranked to full brightness, the camera will pick up some flickering on the Zenbook. Now the naked eye can't see this. Don't have a panic. It has to do with refresh rate matching the frame rate of the camera. But almost identical panels right here. Same power settings, same Intel HD 4000 graphics. We assume that Asus is doing something with power management that actually is shuttering the backlight on and off a little bit more in sync with our camera. Both have very good color gamut, very wide color gamut, suitable certainly for those who do photo editing. Samsung covers almost the entire sRGB spectrum. Really, really good coverage. Asus is almost there, not quite as good though. But we're talking 95% versus 100%, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. You can see the difference in the color cast. The Asus has a warmer display, that is, yellows tend to be more accentuated. That can make movies look very rich, especially skin tones kind of pop, and so do sunlit settings. This guy here has more of a neutral color balance. Both of these are obviously more than capable of playing 1080p video, and we have the same trail here so you can hear the difference in the speakers and see how they look, including the difference in color tones. Now, Samsung offers a couple of color options, including an auto sensing option where it can sense you have a movie playing and it changes the color tone. Personally, I think it looks better if you leave it just at standard mode, but that set aside, the Samsung has JBL speakers. This has Bang & Olufsen ice-powered audio, but we've got more powerful speakers that really sound a lot better than the Samsung, and I think you'll hear the difference when we play. But first, let's play the video on the Asus.
Concerns about our cargo?
Earl, there isn't anything else that I should know, is there?
I can assure you the answer is no.
I've gotten calls from people who found local dogs.
Looks nice, looks really cinematic. Sounds not bad. It's for a 13-inch notebook.
They all just ran away.
And now we'll try the same thing on the Samsung.
Concerns about our cargo?
Earl, there isn't anything else that I should know, is
Much
there?
fuller audio. Really nice for a small
I've
notebook.
gotten calls from people who found local dogs, but the calls coming in aren't local. It's like they
Equally
all
as
just
sharp.
ran away.
And really, as to which one you like better depends on whether you like warm tones versus neutral to slightly cool tones. But obviously, the Samsung wins when it comes to speaker quality. Asus got a kind of a bad reputation for light bleed, both on their Android tablets and some of their laptop computers, notably their Ultrabooks. They've gotten it under control. We do have a little bit of light bleed. It's along the bottom edge here. That's where, for those of you who don't know what that is, when you're displaying something black, like the black bars in a video or anything that's quite dark, you'll see a little bright light coming out from the edges, but certainly in control. The Samsung has almost none, so a little bit better there, but we're not complaining about the Zenbook too much. Battery life, well, you're looking at the same thing in both of these. These both have 4-cell lithium-ion batteries that are sealed inside, and capacity is almost identical. We're looking at about 57 watts of power, and they both run for about 6 hours on a charge. It's actual use time with average use. That means a mix of productivity work with MS Office, some streaming YouTube video just for fun, email going on in the background, not trying to stress the heck out of it by playing HD video the whole time. So 6 hours is quite good. So either one of these guys is going to get you the same mileage on the road. When it comes to software, we've already removed a bunch of the Samsung software. They like to throw a lot of stuff on here, a lot of their own software like S Player, S Gallery, S Camera, their own store for buying, well, all sorts of Samsung hardware. One thing that really was terrible, they had something called IntelliMemory on here by the folks who make Diskkeeper, and that's supposed to speed up hard drives, conventional hard drives. This does not have one. It actually can slow the computer down. We uninstalled that. So lots of software on here, a good software updater application. Asus doesn't put nearly as much stuff on here. Some of it's actually useful, like a unit converter. They have their own software updater, which is not as brilliant as Samsung's, I'll say that. Samsung really does a good job of keeping you up to date or letting you know when new apps are available, and obviously new drivers as well. So Samsung gets the win for that, but a little too much bloatware. Of course, you can uninstall that junk, and you do want to uninstall IntelliMemory if you buy this notebook. And for chargers, the Asus comes with their usual monoblock style charger, plugs directly into the wall here, and lots of long skinny cord. Plugs into the side of the notebook the way you expect it would. And the little end here actually lights up green to let you know it's charging. Nice touch. Samsung gives you a miniature version of your standard laptop style adapter. I know some people vastly prefer one over the other. This is the usual. Unplugs right here, plugs back in. One thing that I don't like about the Samsung much is this little charging pin right here doesn't go all the way in the notebook. What's up with that? So it's easier to bump it and knock it out. Not the biggest thing in the world, but at least Asus's plugs all the way in. Both of these guys can get pretty hot if you're doing 3D gaming. I was trying out BioShock Infinite on these guys, and both of them, the charger got hot, otherwise in normal use now. When it comes to temperature, speaking of that, both of these guys are quite cool. Ultrabooks usually are. Now, if you're playing BioShock Infinite, yes, they'll get hot and you'll hear the fans. That's true of any notebook playing a demanding game like that, but otherwise, you just don't really hear the fans on these under normal use. Normal behavior, no strange fan cycling, any of those problems that some Asus notebooks have had in the past. So there you have it, 2 gorgeous looking Ultrabooks, and you can watch our video review of each of these again, but we'll give you a look-see around, looks on those. Both around 3.5 pounds. Both really nice looking laptops. Probably I would say the Asus has a little bit more super high style, or a little bit more of a unique look, but now you see the salient differences between these guys, and there really aren't a whole lot. The big thing for the Samsung is going to be the upgradable parts inside for you folks who want to upgrade your RAM and your SSD drive. And personally, you know, both of these are really lovely HD touchscreens with gloss. For better or worse, touchscreens just tend to be glossy, but I actually like the warm tone on the Zenbook Prime a little bit better, even though it may not be quite as color accurate. It just looks really nice when you're watching movies, and it makes highlights really pop and things. It makes the display look a little bit more alive and vibrant, but you know, it's a really fine point. I think if you showed the display on each of these to most folks, they'd be hard-pressed to find any difference. So that's the Samsung Series 7 Ultra versus the Asus Zenbook Prime UX31A Touch. As you can see, really, you're not going to go wrong with either of these. It's such a close race, I really can't even call a for sure winner on this. So go by the things that we covered, the differences, and which ones are more important to you, and make your decision based on that. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website to read the full reviews of each of these lovely Ultrabooks. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that like button.